Hello,
Hello.
hello, and welcome to Ferri Unfiltered. I have a great guest on again. I have Andy Dunlop. How are you, mate?
I'm not bad, not bad. How are you?
I'm good, mate. This is obviously we've had to record this when the Waynes are all in bed. Your Waynes are in bed, my Waynes are in bed. Da life, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, and no, and my heavily pregnant wife is downstairs as well. So
Oh.
probably by the time people are actually listening to this, I'll have 4 Waynes, no 3. So
So you're going to have photos. So she's due. Is she due on what date
she's
did you say
getting
again?
induced. She's getting induced on Thursday. We're recording Tuesday. She's getting no Monday. Nobody knows what day it is now. Nobody knows what day it is. Yeah, she's getting induced in 3 days' time.
Oh, so you've got three other kids. So talk me through. So what age do they go down in?
5, 4, and 3.
Mate, that's just skills there. That's just skills.
Aye. Skills or lack of TV, I don't know.
Mate, I'm not gonna lie. Like I was telling Laura about this, and I love a big family. I came from a family of 4, so I'm like. Then my mum and dad went for a third and get hit by twins, so they had my
Oh.
sisters. I know that was a
We,
curveball my
see,
dad wasn't
we
expecting.
always said we wanted 4, and now we'll have 2 boys and 2 girls. So hopefully
Oh,
that's us done.
that. Oh, mate, that's. I'm outnumbered in my house. I've got 2 girls. I'm totally outnumbered. That's me. So if we're lucky enough to go again and I get hit, if I have a third kid and it's a girl,
Aye,
that's me. I'm
game over.
root. That's me, mate. I'm totally root. I'd be just
Yeah,
selling up the gym and everything like that and just moving on.
yeah.
So
Because
that's me.
our oldest is a girl, and it's 2 boys in the middle, and our wee girls. I mean, they've got me wrapped around. She's got me wrapped around her finger. She asks for
Aye.
it, she gets it. That's it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Mate, that's it. I'm murder. This is what Laura says to me. Like it's constant when I go out. She's like, "You bought them something again?" I'm like, "Yes." It's
Aye,
just one of the things, man. They just
yeah,
got a hold on me. So
yeah.
Andy, I know what you do. You're obvious, and you know what you do. But why don't we tell the listeners? And by the way, it's obviously going to go in. I'm glad you brushed your hair the night. It's going to go on YouTube as well, mate. So why don't you just explain to everybody what you do?
Well, that's actually not as easy as you would think. So I run my own business called BH Events, and within that, I kind of have 3 main contracts. 2 of those are town centres, where I run what's called a business improvement district. Within that, you've got the town centre of Barhead, the town centre of Clarkson, and all the businesses within those town centres kind of put money into a pot collectively, and we use that money to promote the areas as positive places to work, live, shop, and visit. And the majority of how we do that is through events, so everything like Christmas light switch-ons, Halloween parades, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, all of that stuff done, not happening, can't do anything like that.
Right.
But a lot of what else we do there is just support the businesses in general, whether that's through helping them with funding, some marketing, and at the moment assisting them with like guidance advice and making sure that they know what they're doing and they know what they should be doing and how to do it properly, training and all of those kind of things. So that is my day job. That's my real job, as my mum would probably say. Um,
Okay.
but the other side of it, I'm responsible for a lot of live music events, festivals, large gigs throughout Scotland. And yeah, that's kind of what my background's in. My background is in events. Although I went to university and did construction management. So
Oh, I do.
uh,
That's hand in hand, mate. It's just
yeah,
exactly the
totally.
same.
No, when I went to university, I realised very, very quickly that I was never going to use that. So I went and found myself something I enjoyed doing. At that time, it was DJing. So from there, that just kind of grew. I started putting on events in clubs. Then I became an events manager in a chain of bars in Glasgow. Then I became the venue manager for some student unions. And then I went on. Then I became a tour manager for a band because I started meeting all these bands. I toured the world for about 5-6 years. And then
Nice.
we had our first child. So I was like, can't do that anymore. So I had to go and try and find a real job. But now, yeah, my own business is really kind of quite defined in itself and going pretty well. And yeah, things are expanding, things are changing. We've actually kept ourselves very, very busy throughout lockdown.
I was loving your new venture, the Stayin Inn. I thought this was genius. I just remember my mate Leanne like sharing it, and I was like, "What is this?" And that was me. I remember lying in bed on the Saturday night with Laura, and see when you're dating one that just that was comedy gold. That should be on
Yeah.
TV. It was just
So
brilliant.
just a bit of background. Like when kind of lockdown kicked in, one of the first events that we had to cancel was a local community awards event. But the judges had already done all the the judging, and we knew who was going to win. We knew all of that. So we were like, we still have to have this event. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? So I was like, right, let's do it virtually. We'll do it. We'll stream it. So I was like, right, I have to test the streaming equipment. So to test that streaming equipment, I was like, right, I used to host pub quizzes when I was a student and stuff like that. When I DJ'd, I was just hosting a wee pub quiz in my loft, which is where I am right now, and just put it on my Facebook page just for a laugh. And I'd done that, and there was loads of my friends joined that. I mean, I'm quite a private person, and that sounds a bit strange considering what I do. So it's not like I have thousands of friends on my Facebook, but loads of people got involved, sent loads of messages after it says, do you know what, I really needed that. That was a distraction from the real life. And I was like, actually, maybe I'll do that again. The next day, Glasgow Live ran a story on it.
Right.
Then the day after that, the One Show got in touch, and they were like, can you come on the One Show and do a quiz for us? So I ended up with, as soon as that happened, I was like, this is going to get too big for me to be doing this on my own Facebook. So I started a page for it, and like literally within about half an hour, I'd come up with the name, the Stayin Inn, just as like a staying in pub.
Aye.
Made a logo, and then went on the One Show and did a wee pub quiz for Ed Balls, the ex-Labour leader, and Al Murray, the pub landlord. And then, so as soon as that happened, when I was doing it, I had like my big TV beside me, and that was where I had the questions on it. And I had the logo up with the Stayin Inn and then the Facebook link. And as soon as that happened, my phone just went wild. It just went crazy. And ever since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. And we've kind of created quite an interesting wee community. We've done other events, like, as you say, the dating show, where we just get people on a Zoom call like this and give them strangers. We just give them 90 seconds to chat to each other and see if there can be love to be made there. It was all about making connections during lockdown. And yeah, some of the car crashes we had on that were just comedy gold. And yeah, you're not the first person I've seen that should be on TV, but we're in talks just now about maybe taking that somewhere bigger. So yeah.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. It was just some of the things like that happened. And like, what was one of your I know one of my favourite moments, but what was one of your favourite moments for that?
Weirdly, and it's probably one that people wouldn't expect. So when I first started it, we did 2 seasons, and we call it seasons because I said I was going to bring it to a close. But when I was bringing it to a close, a girl, Hannah, got in touch with me and said, "You can't stop doing this. This is too brilliant." She's a TV producer. She's won a BAFTA and stuff like that. She says, "I want to help you, and we'll take it to the next level." But it was in the first season, and I was just doing it myself on a Zoom call, getting all these randoms in, and I'm just putting them on dates without ever having spoken to them or seen them. And at the end of that first season, I invited them all back and says, "Come on all back and have a chat with us." There was a guy from Aberdeen come on, and he was a bit of a fan favourite. People had invested in him, like loved seeing him on and stuff like that. But you could tell he was quite shy. He wasn't the most outgoing. And he come on and he was like, "Andy, I just need to say thanks. This has given me such a new lease of life, a new confidence to actually get out there and speak to people and meet new people." And I, genuinely, I mean, I'm sitting where I am right now. It must have been at midnight on a Saturday night, trying not to cry while this has been streamed to hundreds of people, because it was so touching. It was like, wow, this like mad random thing I've done is actually like really, really like touching some people. It was emotional, and you could see it because we're live on Facebook. I can see the comments coming in. People are like, holy shit, like we were all having a laugh, but this guy just brought it home and just hit the nail on the head.
I think it was brilliant. I loved it. I did love the variety from where people were, and it was just the different characters that were coming on, and like you say, like some of them were just. I loved obviously the ones that were absolutely smashed that were coming on it. I was like, that takes us. Obviously, they were getting drunk to sort of like get a bit more confidence, but they went over that level of confidence.
More often than not, there was a thing where you couldn't go on Zoom Groom unless you were smashed. That was that's what made you famous on that. People became known as, like, their first name became Drunk, and then what their actual first name was their surname from then on. Drunk Stevie, all of that.
I think it was brilliant. Let's go right back then. You said there you toured the world. Like, who did you tour with, and where did you go? I love hearing this.
See, to be honest, like, that wasn't a route that I intended to take. You're getting shouted on by a Wayne there, aren't you? I heard a Wayne shouting "Dad." This
is just carnage. Yeah, I know you understand because you're a dad, but Laura's in there anyway. I'm sure it'll be fine. No, it's fine.
If at any point you do need to go, don't think
No,
I'll hang up on you.
So guys, I'm going to pause the podcast. No, it's absolutely fine. It's definitely not Lucia's. It must be Sophia, because if Lucia's just started shouting dad there, it's really impressive for a 1-year-old.
Yeah, but so I never intended to get into the events industry, and I don't. Everything I've ever really done has kind of been born out of luck. Things have landed in my lap, and the opportunities have just kind of appeared. But the one thing and I'll say this to everybody, I do talks in university and stuff like this. I was like, those opportunities appear for everyone, but not everyone takes them. So it was times that I had that these things appeared to me that I was like, no, I need to take this opportunity, or that's it, it's gone. And that kind of repeated itself. So when I was the venue manager of a venue in Glasgow, we used to have a lot of gigs coming in. I was never that into gigs and live music. I think the first gig I ever went to, I worked it, so it wasn't something I was that into. But through working them a lot and friends of mine, becoming close with people who worked in that industry, getting to know a few bands and stuff like that, the kind of opportunity presented itself. A friend of mine who was the sound engineer for the band Twin Atlantic, and he said to me, says, by the way, you know, they're looking for a tour manager. I was like, I'll throw my name into the hat. We were about to do a big venue refurbishment, and I just sent their manager an email and says, look, here, I'll do that. They come back and says, we were going to ask you, but we didn't think you would ever want to do it. And in all honesty, this might take a wee bit of a dark turn, but I think it's important for the story. I was in quite a weird, dark place there. I was like, I was depressed. There was no doubt about it. I'd convinced myself that I was ill, and I was constantly looking for something that was wrong. So I was going to the doctors a lot. I was like, no, I've got a lump here, I've got this there, and I'd catastrophising everything. And that when that opportunity presented itself, I was like, take it, because I wasn't leaving the house much. I was just going to work and then coming home. I was even going staying at my mum's and all that because I didn't want to be alone. And when that opportunity presented itself, so I was like, no, take it, because then you're forced into it. You need to break that cycle, and it did. That changed my entire path. And probably not many people would even have realised that was something that I was going through at the time, because again, I'm quite a private person. But I've got no issue talking about it. And I'd happily tell more people about it so that they realise that, no, this is something that people go through. But yeah, that snapped me out of it. And then I went on tour. We did one show at Rock Ness where the band played the main stage. And then the next week they said, do you want to come on this? We're doing a European support tour with the band The Gaslight Anthem. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that was it. And after that, we toured pretty much every country in Europe. And I've now done 48 of the 50 states of America. So yeah, I mean, I've done huge amounts of touring. Unfortunately, when I stopped, the next tour they did was South Africa, and then the one they did after that was Australia. So I missed out on that. But family life comes first.
Oh no,
but yeah,
100%.
It was an amazing experience. I still know the boys really well. Talk to them fairly regularly. They were all at my wedding, and it was friends for life. That all of the boys in the band and the crew. It was a phenomenal time.
Wow, that is what a journey that is. You're going to have a really interesting autobiography when it comes out.
Aye, the book's halfway there.
I always get asked this question. I get asked this ages ago. What would you call your autobiography if you had to think about it?
Oh. Do you know what? Genuinely, I started writing things down a few times, and I don't think I would ever put it in my own name. So I would never really want to tell anybody what my titles are, because I would rather these stories went out anonymously. And I don't mean I've got any crazy stories to tell, but I don't know. I really don't know. Because I've always thought if I was going to write something that would be so involved in work, but I've had such a diverse career that it's not like I could say Confessions of a Tour Manager. So that was only a short period of time for me. So yeah, well, your wee one's going at it big time.
Yeah, it's Lucia. Yeah, that is Lucia. Laura's in there with her. Sophia's in bed. This will be her wrestling her. She's refusing to go to sleep, mate. This is going to be a very interesting podcast. We should just call it the Da podcast. That's what we should call it.
I'm lucky that my youngest, he turned 3 yesterday. It was the first day in nursery today. So he's shattered. Straight to sleep, man. Boom, straight out like a light.
See, this is it. Sophia's the same. Sophia is back to nursery, mornings, like that. That's her,
shattered,
sleeping.
Just knackers them out.
Lucia, she got her Jags. Now the Jags they get when they're just one, and that's it, man. It's just kicking in. She's up.
Unsettles them.
So this is her. She's just not very happy at the moment unless she's eating. So that is basically, so it's either she's hungry again, but surely it is not possible. So you've worked with some other bands, I hear. What other bands have you worked with?
I mean, honestly, it's we did tours with Blink-182, Green Day. I've done gigs with Foo Fighters, Killers. Well, I mean, so my calendar is up here from what
Right, okay.
I was due to project manage this summer. So it's my summer shows that I was a project manager for were Killers, Little Mix, Westlife, Jerry Cinnamon, Tom Jones, Lionel Richie, 1975, McFly, Simple Minds, and Travis. So I mean, those were the big outdoor shows for this year. Last year I was project manager for Spice Girls.
Wow.
So there's a fair mix in there.
So like, see when you meet these people, like, are you a bit starstruck when you meet them, or do you just see them as normal people and be like, all right, by the way, how you doing? This is where you're going, blah blah blah.
Do you know? In all honesty, I think I've only been starstruck twice. Once was when we did the first Blink-182 tour, and I was never. I'm not a Blink-182 fan. I never had been. But Mark Hoppus came into the dressing room and he's like, "All right, how you doing?" And I was like, and I just didn't know what to say. There was something that just took me by surprise. And but I mean, as I say, I've spoken to people like Dave Grohl, Bill Gates, all like people like that where I've never been starstruck because it's like it's work. It's just gone with it.
Bill Gates, like Microsoft, Bill Gates.
Aye.
Wow.
So,
what is he like?
Do you want me to make that story even stranger?
Go for it.
When I was speaking to him, it was via satellite phone, whilst I was standing on stage at the Royal Albert Hall when it was sold out. It was the Institute of Directors, which is a large worldwide organisation where the directors, all the biggest companies in the world are members. It was their annual general conference, and I was chosen as one of 15 people from schools across the UK to go and put forward young people's views of business. I was in 6th year at school, so I was 17, 18. So you know Kevin and Perry from Harry Enfield?
Yeah.
So I was dressed like Kevin the teenager, ghetto blaster on my shoulder, started at the back of the Royal Albert Hall, right at the crowd, and I pressed play on it. And the Garbage song, When I Grew Up, blasting out the PA, and I swaggering through the Royal Albert Hall, like all these like huge millionaires, like CEOs of like Audi and stuff like that in the crowd, and I'm like winking at them as I go past, like swaggering through. Go up onto the stage, use this fake remote control to change the channel, and it changes the channel to Bill Gates, who is there from wherever he was. I don't know where he was. And yeah, it was my job to ask him some questions. Don't ask me what questions I asked because I can't remember.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, even like that, for some reason, that didn't faze me, even as a 17-year-old daft wee boy. And we've toured with 30 Seconds to Mars, and that tour got cut short because Jared Leto had to go back and pick up his Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. So I mean, like stuff, like mad stuff like that has happened throughout.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that is just the people that you've met, man. That's just. Did you get
but
the autographs?
it genuinely just doesn't. They're just there. It's just that's it. It's work. And see, to be honest, in a lot of these shows, sometimes you don't even meet the talent. You're there to make sure the show goes ahead. It goes ahead safely. And like my job isn't about, when I'm project managing gigs like that, my job isn't really about the artist. It's about the people who are coming to see it, make sure they get in, see it safely, and they get home. Obviously, it's important that the show happens as well, but the biggest task is the 50,000 people in front of them, not the one or two people on stage themselves. But yeah, like last year when I was doing the Spice Girls, I went down to they had some pre-production dates down at a secret location just outside Manchester, and it was like a big aircraft hangar, but there's two of them side by side.
Okay.
And every so often there's maybe 30 people in there watching this full production of the Spice Girls show, by the way. So I'm watching a Spice Girls show for 30, and they kept having to stop they kept having to stop every so often. I was like, why are we stopping? And they're like, oh, because of the explosions next door. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, they're filming the new Spider-Man film next door in the other big aircraft hangar, whilst we're in here with the Spice Girls. And yeah, it was a weird situation.
Bloody hell. It must be surreal, but the fact it's just like 30s just standing there just watching them perform, it's just...
It was one of those weird ones because they knew they were rehearsing, and sometimes they would catch your eye because you're one of only 30 people there. Of course they're going to look at somebody in the crowd, and you're like, aye, that's Jerry Halliwell staring at me while they try and go through this song, and you could almost feel that they're feeling awkward, like they're getting really into it, doing all the dance moves, and they're like, there's only 30 people here. It was like they'd sold no tickets.
That is what amount. That's just amazing. It's just seeing all these artists. You must be into music now a bit more. You must be into bands a bit more now.
Do you know what? It's weird. I mean, I have bands that I'm like hugely, massively into, but I think you get spoiled doing this job. Quite often you'll be doing a gig and you'll just go back and sit in the production office and you're like, oh yeah, such and such is on the stage, but I'm just going to eat this sandwich. It's just like, it becomes such second nature that, I mean, I probably did about, I don't know, 80 gigs last year, and I could probably count on both hands how many I actually watched all of.
Aye.
Because I don't know. It just doesn't make it's not that it's not special, because sometimes it really is special. And sometimes it just touches you, even if it's music that you're not into. Like, see the Barras. The Barras is the most unbelievable place I've ever been in my life. Like, I remember doing a gig. I can't remember who the band was, but it was a band I wasn't that interested in. And standing up the back and looking out and seeing the sea of faces that were getting so into it and so emotional in it. It's something about it. It just grabs you because that venue is special.
The Barras is that's funny you say that. The Barras is actually my favourite venue ever. It's just, I don't know, it's like you say, there's just something about it. I think I love the whole history of the Barras, like how it used to be like it was an old dance hall, wasn't it? And that's what it was originally. Even the stars on the ceiling, like who was it? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they got one of the stars off the ceiling as a present.
Yeah, I mean, like, so what they've actually got molds in the Barras where if they get when they get removed, they replace them because they do get removed so often. And it was David Bowie, when he played, he stole one, and it became a bit of a folklore story. But I'm going to hold this up, and that might be weird for you, but I don't even see that. See, right in.
Is that you?
Aye, that's my wedding, because that's where I got married.
How cool is that? So. So was that like? Did you get married? Did you get married and then go there? Did you get married in there? Like,
so we actually got married at Glasgow University Chapel, but then our reception was in the Barrowlands. Like, yeah,
that is phenomenal.
Yeah,
this is everybody should just go and watch it on YouTube now, because you need to see it.
How was that? I realised that it's a podcast that I'm holding.
It's all right. It's their fault for just listening. So, like, how did that work though? Like, did you have a band? Did you have a DJ? How did that work?
Yeah, so I had a band on it, but it was just like a wedding band. They just played covers of like cool wedding songs. There was nothing at that side of it special, but I think a lot of people coming were probably expecting some big, massive, famous band to be playing, but it was like, nah, I'm just having a wedding. It's the important part of it is the wedding. Like, but it was a great time.
Yeah. That is amazing. Like, that would be brilliant. It'd also be amazing for the wedding band as well. Actually play the Barras. I never knew you could actually like do that for a wedding venue.
You can.
Oh, right, you just you knew somebody.
It was they don't. It's not something they do. It was I'm very lucky to. As they put it, and I would never say this myself, but they put it when they told me that I could have it as part of the Barras family. So I was very lucky to be allowed to have it.
Oh, that is an honour. That is an honour. Did you steal a star?
No, I didn't actually. I wouldn't do that to them. I wouldn't do that.
No, that is amazing. So, how are you feeling now? Like, everything obviously out of COVID is just like coming now. Like, well, I can say that because the gym opens next week. But like, is everything that the lockdown eases off? How are you feeling regarding? Are you going to keep the staying in? You're going to try and keep it running? Like everything that you've been doing? Because obviously we met and we spoke. I know you through a friend of mine, but obviously we met the other week when we were tying up with the Beatson. That's one of our charities. You were involved with the Beatson as well, and you did absolutely amazing. I'd actually just like to take my hat off to you because that was phenomenal. So you go and tell them how much you've raised because it's just unbelievable.
Yesterday we passed the £31,000 mark, which I mean, I know people have raised like crazy amounts of money for the Beatson. I really hold my hands up to them, but we started this like at the start of lockdown just with some silly wee pub quizzes, and it was once a week we put on a pub quiz and people would buy a raffle ticket. So over that, we did 20 episodes of that. We had people like you were one of our eggheads. We had Grado on as the last episode. It went amazingly well. And then when we did the Off the Beatson track, the walk on Saturday and Sunday, a lot of our community members totally bought into that, got themselves some huge amounts of sponsorship, and yeah, smashed through that 30 grand. And that was beyond anybody's expectations that we would ever raise that amount of money for them. So it's been amazing to start that partnership up, and there's no doubt that I'll keep that going in everything that I do moving forward as well. But in terms of the Stayin Inn, yeah, I really don't know what we'll do there. I mean, as you say, things are starting to ease off, but it's unlikely that we'll see any major events for quite some time yet, potentially even as late as a vaccine happening. So me getting back to a full job for me, where I'm used to doing like 7 to 8 hours a week, is maybe a wee while away. So we're turning our hand to a few different things, but I've maybe got a bit of time before I get back to that level of things. So I think there will be something happening on the Stayin Inn, but I think when I look back at some of the messages, and there's people who are like, it's been amazing, I'm a single parent, I don't go out anymore because we've got kids, and it's been that kind of social life for some people. So I do think we'll keep some element of it happening. It certainly won't be the 5-6 nights a week that we've been used to. So yeah, I don't know. But then obviously we're currently just about to take a couple of weeks off because, as I say, my wife is due to drop a baby any minute now. So.
Oh, no, this is it. It's one of the things. Things happen for a reason. It's good. Obviously, you're going to get a bit more time back, and it'll be carnage and wild in your house. So you've done amazing with these numbers. 5, 4, 3, 2, and now going on to 4. Is it 4 your oldest?
No, five's our oldest. 5, 4, 3. We missed a couple of years, and then we got us running.
We missed a couple of years.
We took a wee break.
No, but it's absolutely brilliant. But with like you say, with the Beatson, it was an amazing thing you have done, and it was great to see that. Even when being known as an egghead, it was an absolute honour. Like when you see the messages with people coming through and what you have raised, like the Beatson was one of our charities this year, and they were lovely. They were absolutely amazing to deal with. They were absolutely so nice, and it's great to. I've dealt with quite a lot of charities. We always choose like 1 or 2. It was usually 2 charities each year. And the Beatson, we're bowel cancer and Beatson, and 2 of them are absolutely phenomenal to deal with. They're so supportive in any event you do. They just fling everything into it.
Yeah, well, it was kind of chance that they reached out to me right at the start when they saw me do the first quiz, and I think they either saw me on the One Show or on Glasgow Live, and they're like, we maybe take a chance and see if this guy would be up for doing something. And I think that there was a few other people who had reached out as well, but the Beatson kind of just still let me be me, whereas on the quizzes, especially at the 9 o'clock ones, it's maybe not family friendly sometimes, and the language can be a bit colourful, but they weren't bothered about that. They were like, we don't care, it's content for them. They were still raising money, and they were really supportive, and it was great to start learning about the stuff that they do, because I genuinely didn't know much about them. And as I say, we did 20 episodes, but on week 17, my mum messaged me and said, my mum messaged me and says, you know, your dad was in the Beatson. My dad passed away 16 years ago. But I had absolutely no recollection of him ever being in the Beatson, so it was like quite poignant that that's the way it turned out, that that there was a connection there. And even before then, I'd already decided that partnership is definitely going to continue in some way, shape or form, that we'll be involved with them. And I don't know, we'll maybe do them a live quiz next time they're allowed to do one of their big events or something.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. It'd be so good. And the thing is, it's just got so much potential. Everything you're doing at the moment has got so much potential. Like, I'd love to see. I would love to see a live, like, stay in a pub. But I think that would be amazing.
We actually did. We did some drive-in events last week.
All right. Okay.
At Dalkeith Park, thing called the Parking Lot Social, where we kind of did some DJ sets, a quiz, and there was some karaoke and stuff like that. And that was really great. I mean, 200 cars sitting there peeping their horn at you rather than giving you abuse on the Facebook comments. It was a bit different.
I actually heard about it. Were they doing that in Edinburgh as well because they couldn't do the Fringe?
Yeah, well, that would have been, you probably saw it on, I think it was Reporting Scotland or something like that. They'd done like Edinburgh Nights, which is, they used to do Edinburgh Festival Nights, but yeah, they'd done a full episode on that. They were out there filming that. Was that been on the TV? I better go and see if I'm on the TV then. I better go check that out.
it was on, because that's how I seen it, and I was like, what a genius idea. I mean, especially for the comedians, that was their thing, and it's been totally stripped away from them, their live events as well.
Yeah, so I mean, they're doing like 5-6 nights a week. They just finished the 2-week run in Edinburgh, and now they're going to Glasgow Airport to do another 2-week run, and then they're down Newcastle, Manchester and all that. So yeah, it's been good fun.
Mate, you definitely get a bit, don't you?
Well, thankfully, I only did the first one for them, set it up, gave them all the tools to make them do it, and then I'm taking some time off. So
How are you feeling though? Like, obviously you're a bit of a pro with this. You've got 3 kids already. How are you feeling about baby number 4? How are you nervous? Are you?
Do you know? I think today was the only day a wee bit of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think today was the only day a wee bit of excitement hit, because although she's obviously been pregnant for 8.5 months, it just hasn't felt real, because 6 months of that has been in lockdown. So that 6 months has went by in an instant, because everything's went by in an instant almost.
Yeah.
So it just, there's bits about it that haven't quite felt real yet. But I mean, as I say, we're going to the hospital in 2.5 days' time. So I mean, it'll definitely start to feel real very quickly. But no, not nervous. I mean, the only thing I'd say, and this would, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but watching your wife go through labour is the most terrifying thing in the world.
100%.
And the thing that makes it even more scary for me is not letting them know that you're so terrified. Like, yeah, it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and having to do it 3 times. It didn't get any easier any of those other times. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that part, but yeah, it's absolutely terrifying.
I was to say, when we had Sophia, obviously that was our first child, and I remember when Marsh was going to collapse. I was so nervous. I was watching Laura. She wanted like not a pool at birth, but like it was in the water, and the girl was like, no, she needs to go in. And we took her into the room, and they were like, the nurses are obviously so calm, and I could tell there was something wrong, but by this point Laura was sort of like pretty drugged out or not. So I was sitting there and I'm like, this is not a good thing, seeing her. No, I don't know what's happening. And then it was like, I heard one of the nurses casually saying, okay, so the cord's wrapped around your child's neck. So, and I went, wait a minute, excuse me. And she went, oh, it's okay, it's quite common. I went, I don't care if it's fucking common. I says, you get that baby out now. Then I was like, they're like, okay. And then then another doctor came in, okay, Mr. Ferri, we're now going to take your wife in for an emergency section. And I'm like, whoa, what's happening? What do you mean emergency? Why is it an emergency? It's because of the cord. And then the doctor's like me going, how does he know about the cord? Why is he telling me about this cord? But then the second time with Lucia, it was a planned section, and we went in, and it was, has your wife had a planned section already? She had one? It was, no. Mate, it was unbelievable. We went in, and we're sitting there, and they're like, okay, so you're going about, you're one of the first on the list. And I'm like, all right, okay. And off Laura went down, and they went, okay, if you just go and get your scrubs on, I was like, right, and go back and sit in the room. So I'm just sitting in the room with like, these other mums and dads with me and my scrubs, and they're like, okay, you're now ready to go down. And I'm like, right, okay. And I'm like walking down, and Laura's just sitting there, and she's like, I can't feel my legs. And I was like, okay. And I'm just sitting there, and the doctors and that are all just talking away at you and having a laugh, and I'm like, this is surreal. And obviously you can see the curtain moving because she's obviously getting tugged about, but it sounds really bizarre, but it was so relaxed. And when we had Lucia, it was amazing, and obviously it was the best thing ever. And then like, after it was like, Laura, how were you? And she was like, it was such a nice experience, because I remembered it, and like I was like totally conscious when Lucia arrived, and I was like, so can we go again? No, I mean, it was, but it was brilliant. The staff were amazing, right enough. But
yeah, I mean, I think with their first there was a wee bit of distress, so they went in, they prepped her for a section, but they said they were going to try a forceps delivery first, and they got her out with the forceps. But then Jenny's like, as you say, out, can't move from like the neck down, so she's just sitting there and she's looking at me, and like I can see that Ivy, who's their oldest, is out and on the table, and they're like using the wee sucker thing in her mouth and stuff like that, and I'm like, make a noise, and Jenny's saying to me, I would do it all again, and I'm like, you've not even held her, just let her make a noise, and that was honestly probably the longest 10 seconds of my life. And then hearing that first cry, and I'm like,
exactly. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And do you know what? Genuinely, nobody had ever told me that about preparing for that it was so terrifying. And I don't know if that's that guy thing where, nothing's scary, you can handle it all. No, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying.
I'm with you, mate. That's exactly how I was. And when we were there, I remember the anaesthetist was sitting beside me with Sophia, when we were having Sophia, and obviously her head came out first, and he was like, oh, there we are. It's a beautiful baby boy, right? And then I went like that, and I looked, and then I just looked at him, and I went, what type of boys have you seen? I said, that's not a boy. And he went, my mistake. And I'm like, what? What training are you in? Are you in? Is this guy? this is some random for the cafe you brought up. I was like, what is this? But it's always, but it's absolutely terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I'm going to dive in, Andy, and I'm going to start asking you some random questions now, because I feel
Feel free.
it was quite a relaxed conversation anyway, apart from my children screaming in the background. But I feel like it's good entertainment. It's like, remember that, have you ever seen that BBC one with the guys trying to do the interview on BBC News, and he's Wayne dive bombs.
The Wayne's coming in the background. Oh, that's brilliant.
It was funny. At least that never happened. That's the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, but there's other ones in. There's 3 other ones happened during lockdown, and they're all equally good.
Oh, really?
You should go watch them. But there's one where it's a woman. It's like the Wayne comes in screaming, and she's like, "Sorry, that's one of my children." And then like the Wayne just runs away screaming. Like, I hope somebody else is there looking after that.
Right. Damn it, that child, get out of that cage. Get out of the cage. Here we go. So, Andy, as you know, it's called Ferri Unfiltered. My main name, I will get you a coffee at one point, but I was supposed to be, the show was, I get you a coffee. So I've got a coffee machine in the gym, we'd have a chat. So if I was making you a coffee, hopefully drink coffee, what type of coffee would you have?
I'm going to ruin your question.
You don't, I fucking knew it.
I don't, you know what, but I don't drink hot drinks at all.
Right,
I don't drink hot drinks, and I don't eat cold food.
Right.
I think they're weird. And you know, when we were on tour, especially in America, it was always a thing. You'd stop every few hours and the boys would go and get a coffee. And I was like, I'm going to try and get into coffee. And I started like on the low end of the scale. And then after like 2 days, I had like the shakes and I was like freaking out. And I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm tapping out. Yeah, so yeah, I don't drink coffee.
Okay, what type of beverage would I give you then, Andy?
I mean, if quite often if I go to a meeting, a coffee place, I'll have a smoothie.
That's fine. What would you like? What
Maybe
smoothie would you like?
A mango. I like a mango.
Right, you're fine. You're back in the game, mate. You're back in the game.
Yeah.
That's it. You're back. You've moved up that pecking order again. You're fine. I like mango as well. Right, so I can make your mango smoothie. Right, so we've done that. So now what I'm going to do is, please don't ruin this, Andy. I'm going to get you a pizza. So right, you're nodding me a smile. Is this going to go positively?
Oh, I'm very particular about pizza though.
Oh, right, okay. Right, here we go. Right, go.
So I love a Neapolitan pizza.
Right, okay.
So, like, do you know Paisano in Glasgow?
Yes.
Just checking. Yes. You never know.
Yeah, come on.
I'd go with a Paisano, and I'd probably I'd maybe go with a number 2, but sometimes I'll go with, so number 2 is just a margarita for those that are uncultured and don't know what a Paisano is. or a number 6, which has the Induja sausage on it. Do you know, although I'm a part-time veggie, so it depends how I feel. Do you know, I started maybe 2 years ago, and I went like cold turkey. I was like, right, let's see if this makes a difference to how you feel. And I just went veggie straight. I was on a train down to London, watched the documentary, and I was like, that's it, you're being veggie. And ever since then, maybe 18 months, I was veggie. And I wasn't really strict, so I would eat Haribo and stuff like, it's got beef gelatin in it, but I didn't eat meat, and I didn't feel any different.
No,
it genuinely didn't make me feel any better. I didn't feel healthier or anything like that until I ate meat again, and then I felt crap. So,
oh really?
Yeah. It was like my body used to not having the meat, and then I don't know, struggled to process it or something like that.
Slow digestion, stuff like
So
that.
I'd say I'm a meat producer, which sounds so wank. Apologise if you can't swear on your postcard.
You can swear away. To be fair, I've actually been very polite tonight compared to what I usually am. So
me too. I actually cut one out earlier. I self-bleeped myself.
No.
But yeah, no, I cut down a lot. So yeah, it depends how I feel. If I feel I'm going to have the meat, I'm saying that. But see, when you text me earlier to remind me we were doing this, I was at the Chinese picking up a Chinese. So yeah.
That's fine, mate. That's fine. My mate's a part-time vegan. He just pretends he's vegan and again. He's a terrible vegan. We went out cycling the other week and he just whacked out like Richmond, not his sausage, Richmond sausages. I'm like, I had to go, who brings sausages out in a cycle? And he's like, hey, what's up with that? Right? And I was like, all right then. But so that's the type of vegan he is. So, right, so we've got your pizza. I am delighted that you didn't say pineapple pizza. I'm so happy. Thank you. That's the reaction I wanted. That is the reaction I wanted.
No.
Right. Now we've got your drinks. So we've now got your dinner. Right. So now you're going to have a dinner party and you're going to invite 5 people. Now they can be dead or alive, not physically dead. They could come back from the past, not as zombies, but as their human self. So who are the 5 guests you would have?
Zoe Deschanel.
Nice.
I'm now as soon as I've said her name, I'm like, right, now I need to go through the rest of the list and figure out which 5 of them I'm bringing. But there's got to be somebody else there. This one's from left field, Minka Kelly. But I don't know if you know who Minka Kelly is.
No.
So she was an actress on the TV series Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
Just, yeah. So she's up there, but I'll go with Scott Hutchison, who's the lead singer of Frightened Rabbit. Who
unbelievable, love him.
But I mean, Scott took his own life maybe 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would need to be there. Frightened Rabbit are one of the only bands that I would, without question, buy a ticket for. Whereas most of the time, I would just go and blag a guest list from somebody.
I loved Frightened Rabbit. Like, I loved them. I actually added more songs of theirs to my Spotify the other day.
There's something about Scott's songwriting is just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. There's some stuff in there that's just nobody else that I've ever been able to find that's been close to it. But yeah, who else would I bring? I'll probably bring Bill Gates back, see if he remembers me.
Would you dress up as Kevin for Kevin and Perry again?
I'd put the outfit back on.
That's fine, then. That's fine, mate.
And I don't know, I think I'd maybe bring somebody random. Like, I'd either go with Obama or I'd go completely the other way and bring Trump just to try and get inside the mind.
How would you get lost inside that, mate?
I know.
It's like a black hole.
That's the kind of mad thing about it. Or maybe Stephen Avery, the Making a Murderer guy. The guy who's in jail for that whole Making a Murderer. Just to maybe understand, did you do it? Did you do it?
I know I find that quite a tricky one because there's so much Making a Murderer that I was like, the cops obviously hated him and his family.
Yeah.
But then there were certain points I'm like, wait.
Then you've got to question, well, why did they hate you? Like, what else is going on there? There's definitely other things about that.
How many was that? Was that your 5?
I don't know.
Maybe you had 2 obviously from your top 5 there that you brought in.
Zoe and Minka. We'll go Bill Gates. Let's do Donald Trump.
Oh.
And Stephen Avery.
That is the most random one.
No. I'll drop Stephen Avery and bring Scott back. Scott.
Right, okay. Right, that's fine then. That's fine. It's a very interesting one. Last week, Coy had Susan Boyle on. That was a random one. I do love a random guest. I love a random guest.
I nearly said Joe Frost. Joe Frost is Super Nanny.
Oh, is she in your top 5?
Aye.
Is she?
Aye.
I don't know.
I'd let her put me in the naughty step.
Oh, would you see? Do you know? I get slagged about this. And my random one from my top 5 is, what's her name? Is it Angela McLean for Loose Women? The Scottish used to do the weather.
Nah, I don't know. See, I've got my list saved, but I mean, mine isn't a 5. I think I've got 12 on mine.
Is it laminated and all that, like that episode of Friends?
Saved on my phone. That counts. Saved on my phone.
So if you ever meet any of them, you can just actually show your phone and just be like, "Look, you're on it."
Well, it's like my wife actually got really annoyed me when I was on tour because there was quite often where I crossed paths with some of these people. And Zoe Deschanel has been like top of that list for a long time. And we did a show in South by Southwest in Texas, and she's got a band called She and Him, and they were on before us. And I was like texting my wife, just noising her up, being like, I'm going to ask her.
I have never been close to any of my top 5, mate. Never, ever.
I think the only other one I've been close to is Rachel Riley from Countdown.
Oh.
I met her backstage at Radio 1 Big Weekend. But I was, do you know what? That was my other time I was starstruck. I was too scared to go say into her.
Oh, were you? Oh man, she is.
Must be a top 5 thing.
You've got top 12. I need to sit and write that down. I can't even think of top 12.
Oh, I did. It's on my phone and everything. I've saved and I'll update it if it needs changed. If MD, because what I've actually got is a wee tick list. So if they get married, they get a wee tick beside them. So you're like, that's a wee bit harder.
Well, that is very, very efficient. That is very efficient. So let's go into, we're going to the next bit. Are you a bit of a reader, Andy? Do you read?
You know, I go through phases, and honestly, I haven't read anything in a long time because I've honestly, I'm so busy that reading takes, and you need to focus on it, because if I'm not understand, if I'm not getting into it, then I lose interest in it completely. I've never really read much fiction. I've always read autobiographies or kind of inspirational stuff and things like that. And I've you know, some of the best stuff I've read is Lance Armstrong's books. All three of his autobiographies were brilliant, and weirdly, I'm still a fan of his, despite it coming out that it was full of shit all that time. But yeah, some of the stuff in that, I mean, I don't care how many drugs you take to went through, and then still win 7 Tour de France's. There's something in there.
I know, 100%.
So some of that stuff was really interesting. But not in all honesty, I can't even remember the last book I read. Some of Derren Brown's stuff is really interesting. He goes into like the psychology of things. And then I'm a big fan of Lemmy, the Scottish comedian.
Does Lemmy write books?
He's got 3 books. Don't get me wrong, quite often it's short stories that just click with my weird warped sense of humour. So yeah, that in fact, Lemmy would probably be the last book I read. But yeah, in all honesty, at the moment now, I'm more stick on a podcast, because it's that non-fiction element that I like, and I like listening to hear people's stories, or watch a documentary or something like that. But in the car, I mean, I've been known to maybe stick on an audiobook, but podcasts just consume what I do. I've not really had much time to sit down and read and all.
No, I'm a big audiobook fan. That's what I like. I really like audiobooks, and it's just, as you say, it's like time. But sometimes I can just be like out driving, so I can just sit and listen to that. So mate, that's still some good suggestions. It's like,
Derren Brown, Happy was the last audiobook.
That's what I was actually going to say. No, that's exactly. Yeah. I like that. I like the one. I just like how I love the. What do you call that? Like when the placebo effect that he was talking about, and I thought that was so interesting. But the person with eczema, and it was just that he gave them more or less a Smartie, but it wasn't a Smartie, obviously, but whatever it was. Yeah. And I was just like, that's unbelievable. Like how much your brain controls everything. Yeah. But I suppose, like, when you were talking, obviously, when you were in a darker place, like, did you feel like that was like it was something in your head that then you clicked?
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, and I couldn't even pinpoint it. Well, there probably was something physical that ticked off. In fact, when I was about 15, I broke my ankle, and obviously I was still growing at that time, and it caused a bone spur at the back of my knee. And for some reason, the first time I ever noticed it was right at the start of that. So that flicked a switch for me. I was like, no, something's wrong. I went and got that checked out. Oh no, that's fine. It's just a bone spur. You're fine. You don't have cancer. But no, in my head, no, I've got it somewhere else then. So you start looking for symptoms, you start looking for things that are wrong, and it drove me crazy. It absolutely drove me crazy. And I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I've been at home alone, or I'd have to say to my mum, Mum, I need to come and stay with you because I'm just like, I'm feeling so down. It wasn't like I was suicidal or anything like that. I didn't ever feel like that bad, but it was just like, nothing's going to be able to get me out of this until I find out something's wrong. And it took something to snap me out of it. And yeah, and I've said that to the guys before, the band that let me go out and tour manage them. That was a big, massive effect on me, and it helped. So it was just having the opportunity there to snap myself out of it.
I can totally relate, because after everything that happened to me, I was the same. I was more or less looking for it to return. It's going to return. Yeah. So it must be coming back. And my surgeon was like, that's why my surgeon says to me, it was like the Derren Brown book. I was reading stuff like that, and he was like, no, everything's up there with you now. He's like, this is, and that's what he said to me. He goes, that's going to be the biggest part for you. He says, I knew you would bounce back for the surgery, you'd bounce back for this, because like your work, do you know what I mean? Your work was just keep fit, and he says, and everything like that. He says, but the part I knew it'd be hardest for you would be up here. So it's very, very, it's good that you've spoke about that, because it's good for people to understand. I mean, like, what can happen.
And people say that, like, we don't talk about it enough, and it's I never want to get that kind of preachy way about it, but the times that it only really gets talked about is when it's too late. Like when someone's actually taken their own life, or something drastic has happened, that it's like, shit, we should have talked about that. I'm like, no, talk about it before it becomes a problem. Like, let's normalize that.
That's what you need to do, and that's what I do now. Like, if I see somebody and I think, and I'll just maybe drop in with them, Hey, how you doing? Yeah. And then, but, oh, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, just a wee drop in. And it's the best thing to do. And I'm a big believer in just talking about it. Like, I've no issue with talking. I did have an issue with talking about it, and that was the thing. My big thing was writing my article for Bowel Cancer UK. And it was like this, it was like all of a sudden I just sort of took off this massive heavy backpack. And I was like, oh, God, that was worth doing. When it was just literally a story that I avoided putting out. So, no, mate, this has been really, really good. And it's been a very, very interesting podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out. Oh, no, it's been an absolute honour, and it's great, and I love getting people like yourself on, because it's like, it's really inspiring what you've done over in your whole career. Like, I love what you said there, was just with opportunities, like, you just got to take opportunities, and that's what I totally believe in as well. So it's great, and that's why I want people to hear, like, people like yourself, and they should, if they've got an opportunity to sit in their lap, just take it. Like, don't fanny about.
Because I mean, like a couple of your other episodes, they talk about like people's drive and like really like focused goals and stuff like that. In all honesty, I've never had a focused goal, because I still don't know really what the end game is. I want to have a happy family. That's I suppose that's always been my end game, is like I want to have that happy family, and obviously there's other things that I've got to fall into place to do that. But yeah, when opportunities present themselves, sometimes it's taking a bit of balls to take them. I mean, I worked for a local authority for 18 months, and I hated it. It was rubbish. It was crap. I mean, it was doing the big scale events that I do, but it was awful. It was slow paced. It was 9 to 5, and my wife was 8 months pregnant, and I quit. And people were like, "What are you doing? That's a job for life, and you've got a family on the way, and you were well paid." And I'm like, but I hated it. It was rubbish. And I quit to go and do a 3-week tour, which I wouldn't have. I'd do the same decision every 100 times again. Like, there's no doubt about it. With no promise of any extra work. Did that 3-week tour, took 6 months off, and enjoyed that first 6 months of my daughter's life. So, it was well worth it. And then just caught up afterwards.
And that's the amazing thing. It's great talking to like another dad it's got that attitude, and like, that's the way I am. Like, everybody's, oh my God, lockdown must have been absolutely horrendous for your business. To be fair, it wasn't the greatest for business. I've had worse. I mean, I've been in a worse situation, but like, my wee girl, I've been able to spend loads of time with my wee girls. I mean, Lucia is only just turned 1. I mean, Sophia wasn't at nursery. I got all that time with them. I'm like, you can't buy that. I mean, you just can't.
This was meant to be the busiest summer ever for me, and to be like, nah, you're not away for 4 months of summer. You can actually sit at home, and I'm taking the kids to school and nursery just now and stuff like that, rather than being stuck in a festival site somewhere. So yeah, it's been amazing. And I'm lucky that yes, I lost a huge amount of work over summer, and they did have an impact, but because I've diversified and I've got different kind of roles that I do, some of that was still able to go ahead. So I've been lucky.
See, you're a wise man, mate. See, it's an amazing person to have on. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to get this episode out. And all the best, mate, being a dad of 4. So thank you so much. And I'm going to stay tuned to all your stuff, mate, on the Stayin Inn. But thank you again, mate, right?
No worries. Speak to you soon.